The question that a lot of people have is why invest in silver and gold if it's manipulated? And what is the end game for silver specifically? Today, we are talking with Mike Konnert. He is the CEO of Vizsla Silver, and we're going to be discussing just that. So make sure you hit the like button on this video to send it out into the YouTube universe. Give us a comment down below if you enjoy today's episode. And Mike, how you doing?
Doing very well. Yeah, it's a nice sunny day here in Vancouver, and the company's going strong, so everything's going well. Yeah.
You guys got that nice Canadian summer coming in shortly, so everything's looking pretty blue skies. But the silver price has yet to really move. And I think when it's in the bull market and in these correction periods, a question that people eventually come to is, why invest in silver if it's manipulated? People say that the price is distorted. We've even seen the WikiLeaks cables that talked about using the gold and silver price manipulation. So why invest in something that is manipulated, like silver specific?
Well, I think if they're, the manipulation of silver, and gold, I don't think it can manipulate it on a long-term price chart. If you look at silver from the last 2 years, that the price has doubled. If there's manipulation, I think it occurs kind of on a short term or on a daily or weekly operation, and that might be the profit of a small group of people or something like that. Now you see that with stocks as well too. You have the high frequency trading. You have all types of naked short selling, those type of things that groups do, not necessarily to lower the price of something forever, rather maybe to clip some sort of fees or clip some sort of small profit and do it repeatedly over a longer period of time. So in that sense, I think you can't manipulate the supply and demand of silver, and you can't remove the utility of silver and its increasing demand over time here, through manipulation forever. And like I said before, when I started Vizsla, we were raising money for our silver mine 2-3 years ago. The silver price was closer to $14, and went up to 28. So in a commodity, doubling the price, and I think it can double and triple from here. That's a good sign that you certainly can make money on.
So it's just a supply and demand type of story, ultimately, that you think is the destiny of where silver can go?
Yeah, I think that's undeniably important to the equation here. It's one of the things that I think is really interesting about silver is that you do get two kind of main sources of demand, which is the industrial application, which is electrification, solar panels, photovoltaics, things like that. But you also get the investment in jewelry and precious metal demand as well too. So I've said it before, but kind of the line on this is that there's two ways to win, and you're starting to see electric vehicles and solar panels, things like that, are becoming increasingly important in the demand equation of this, and the supply of silver is so it's just a very small market, and it's very difficult to add to the supply overnight. So I think over time you're going to see that the silver price climbs due to that.
A lot of people talk about the end game of things. So what do you think the end game for silver is in this pretty rare moment in history?
It's a good question. Does it have an end game? And it hasn't yet, right? I mean, silver's been money for centuries and centuries, and I think that is the end game. that it continues to be a metal that has monetary value, that underpins value and stores value over time. So, does silver have a role to play in kind of the I don't know if it's an appropriate term for silver, but is it the DeFi or kind of the changing of the existing kind of financial um, system? I think certainly that's possible. But I again, it's to me, it's just an equation of what's out there, what's using silver, and who's buying silver for what reason, and I think it's just a critical part of this new electrification economy, as well as the new economy where countries are basically at an incredible race to devalue their currency, faster than the other. So, what is the end game? I don't know. What's your take on that? How do you see silver in that sense?
Well, I mean, my next question was going to be about you said that governments are racing to devalue their currency the quickest. And my next question was, what do you think the end game for the central banks and governments for what they're doing right now to our currencies? As you said, a race to the bottom. What's the end game for the central banks and the governments? Because I think that the end game for that will ultimately affect silver, whether or not silver crosses all-time highs again. It's going to happen purely from the electrification component. But where does the price really go, and does it really untether from the manipulation and the suppression of the price? Shadow Stat says that the price through real inflation for silver is much higher. But I think ultimately it does depend on this. And we're in this rare moment where, I'm a bit of a prepper in all the senses. So I'm pretty damn prepared at this point. So I'm not really stressed or worried, but I look at how much money they're printing, and them saying that inflation is transient and it's temporary. And maybe it is, I don't know. But we're having all these supply shortages. They're basically saying they're going to print an infinite amount of money again for infrastructure, for climate change. And I'm just like, if it really is a race to the bottom, what is the end game? Like, what are they just going to ride it till something happens? And then what happens after that? And I wonder, this is such a rare moment in history. What do you think the end game for what central banks and governments are doing right
now? Well, I think, I guess the other question is what's the reserve currency of the world if the world's reserve currency is devaluing itself, and that's the one that all other currencies are kind of compared against, including gold and silver. What is the effect of that? And I think eventually, if it's not stable enough, it loses its reserve currency status. And so maybe there is a way to have some sort of precious metals backed or influenced dollar or something like that. But I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's likely, I should say, at this point here, because it's too easy just to create money out of thin air. And I would say that the end game is interesting because you can even look at kind of the China, of course, is looking at time durations that are much longer than the North American or Western election cycles, and I think those are the time frames that central banks are thinking of, and are very short time frames, election time frames, those type of things. So I think the end game 10 years from now, or I don't know what could happen, but like you said, being prepared by owning silver, I think is a kind of almost a bare minimum if you're watching what's happening here, silver or gold or whatever precious metal or store of value you prefer. Silver, I think, has the most torque, but it's yeah, it's unprecedented, isn't it?
Yeah, and so then the question is, if we stay on this end game theme, what's the end game for inflation that we're seeing? I've heard intelligent people argue on both sides of the equation that this is the beginning of an inflationary currency crisis, and I've heard other people argue that there's so much debt, and um, there's so much devastation to the economy from these lockdowns that we won't see significant inflation long term. And so I wonder, what do you think the end game for inflation is? Are you guys still seeing a lot of it? I know you're in Vancouver. For those that are listening to this that don't know, Mike's in Vancouver, which is already one of the more expensive places to live in the world. And some of the crazier stories about home prices selling for 100% over asking, things
Yeah.
like that, have been in Vancouver. So what do you think the end game for inflation is?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's well, I mean, isn't inflation over in the U.S.? Didn't they tell you that you're saving 16 cents on a hot dog?
Oh my God, that was so funny. Oh my gosh.
I thought the transitory inflation's over. It's already gone. No, yeah, it's insane. It's, I think it impacts things, throughout everybody's lives. You're never going to get rewarded for kind of a traditional lifestyle where you go to work at wherever it is and save money and get a good interest rate to, it's basically going to be free money, I think, for the government because they can't afford to, um, to pay the interest on all these things. So you got to kind of print it away, right? So, I don't know. The only thing that playing devil's advocate here, but if you're the reserve currency of the world, the substitution is a difficult thing, and so I don't know what happens when you go full Weimar in the U.S. But I do know that if there's any risk of that, which to me there appears to be a fair amount of risk to that, you're going to want to own silver and gold, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what the end game is. I don't know what it looks like 10, 20, 30 years from now, but I do know that I have life insurance and things like that, and I think part of that is being prudent and in the sense of kind of being financially prudent on your personal finances. I think owning silver or owning the shares of companies that are looking for huge deposits of silver is not a bad idea. But I wish I had kind of more of an exciting answer. But for me, I think it's not so much that there's something that's certainly going to happen, is that it's the amount of uncertainty caused by it all is the thing that causes the chaos.
It's amazing that they actually think people believe that inflation doesn't exist because you saved 16% on 16 cents rather. I'm sorry. 16-cent savings on your hot dogs. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds like you're watching South Park when you were a kid, and like that's like a scene out of it. That's how amazing it is. And so all of this kind of macro factors is, of course, what leads you and I and many others to our interest in silver and interest in gold and an interest in watching the financial system, because of course then it ultimately affects the social stability of the world. And so I think for me, my core thesis for investing in silver and silver related stock equities, right? You guys are Vizsla Silver, a mining stock, or whether it's buying physical silver or what have you. My core thesis is probably that I believe that we're in the early few stages or innings of a massive inflation of the money supply in order to acquire the majority of the assets of the world. And so I think that this theme to me, although it's been a frustrating 6 months in the price of silver, this theme to me is probably like going to play out over the next decade. And so I want to know, what do you think the primary theme for why you invest in silver and silver related equities?
Yeah, I mean, partially it's because it's the first investment that I made. Really, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know what it's. I've seen the price of gold go absolutely insane, almost 10 times. From whatever 15 years ago or something like that. It's just incredible the amount of uh, price appreciation in gold. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny when you're in it every day and you're looking at the silver gold price every day. You kind of, it's tough, right? I would have thought silver would be a lot higher by now, and gold would have been a lot higher. But it doesn't really play on the time frames that you necessarily hope. But rest assured, eventually, these commodity prices, and in particular the precious metals prices, are going to reflect what's happening to what you said there, monetary supply. And my theme is there's two things here. It's wealth preservation and also wealth creation. Wealth preservation, I like history, and you think about even my family's history, and being having to kind of leave countries, or you just don't know what's going to happen. So you want to have something that's a store of value to kind of protect what you've worked for. And gold and silver are the best stores of value. They don't you don't lose a wallet, and can't remember your code to get into it, like a Bitcoin, or power goes out, and then what do? You can always kind of carry gold and silver with you, or gold, maybe more so than silver. Silver is, if you have a lot of it, it's somewhat a little bit more difficult to transport, unless but you need to have a good mix of that. So there's the wealth preservation in a low interest environment. It protects against inflation. That's the argument for gold in many cases as well. But it's also wealth creation, and the idea of finding. Well, it's almost like a new technology. If you're creating a new technology, it's like finding a new supply of silver. Is like we're doing here in Mexico. We've found what appears to be one of these world class spectacular silver districts that 450 years ago the Spanish were mining, because silver was and gold were money to them. Nothing's really changed. Except for the uses of silver have increased now, so there's increased demand. But finding large deposits of this metal, moving it towards production, is also a good way for investors to make a significant amount of money. And that's why our company, we put in significant amount of our own money into Vizsla Silver. Our chairman just bought in the last couple months $7 million of the stock himself at these levels. So it's what's better than finding the metal that you would use to kind of preserve your wealth, and also kind of creating value for shareholders in the same path. So that's I would think my my theme, or how I look at that.
So then that leads us into the discussion of mining stocks. You talked about wealth preservation. For me, my silver is a cash position. It's a cash position that literally is basically impossible for me to lose. Yeah. And so I look at my mining stocks as something that I don't need the cash from the profit, and I know we're in the early stages, so I'm not really selling anything, never really, or at least like I'm moving with a trend that I think is in the early stages of at least 5 to 10 years of playing out. Mm-hmm. And when you get these stages where the price of silver is not moving, there are stocks that actually do really well. And Vizsla is an example of that. You guys have basically, while silver, I don't know, maybe silver's down 15%. I don't know, maybe approximately from its silver squeeze high. you guys are up like, I don't know, forget what if it is, like 100% or something, like very high during that same period. And so, for those that don't know, you're the CEO of Vizsla Silver. You guys are been our longest term main sponsor on our channel. Why don't you wrap up? Give us a little update. What's going on in the Vizsla Silver world?
Yeah, it's an incredible time, and I was drawn to this project in Mexico, and when silver was no one wanted to do silver, and our share price was 15 cents a share, so we've gone 15 cents to $3, and I think
Jeez Louise, 15 cents to $3.
yeah, I think it's possible that we'll see that type of we've just gotten started at Vizsla, and there it sounds like a big jump, but I think there's the potential for the company to do multi-bagger easily from here. So I mean, we just raised $74 million over since we acquired the projects. We've raised about $110 million for the company. We've spent maybe about a quarter of that already just on drilling, and we found an enormous amount of mineralization at two veins there, and we're continuing to make these big discoveries. But the best part is that where we are drilling and where we're focused right now is less than 5% of the overall vein extent of this district. This is an old district of Mexico. It's one that we consolidated through basically kind of sheer determination and a lot of luck, I would say, and low silver prices. And we're continuing to make big discoveries there, and unlock the value of this huge high grade vein field in Mexico. And the best part is we have the ability to go into production faster than anybody, I think, expects us to. And the reason for that is that we have a fully operational mill. We can basically be Mexico's next silver producer here. So it's an incredible story, and like I said, just getting started here. So check us out. VizslaSilver.ca is the website.
Yeah, that's quite the story. And you guys just raised a bunch of money. You guys are really hitting on all cylinders. When you started, or first question, when you acquired the land that is now becoming Vizsla Silver's ideally producing mine here in the not too distant future. But what was the price though when you started it, when you bought it? What was it, $14?
Yeah, it was $14 or $15.
And what did you believe the price was going to go to at that time ultimately? Like when you bought that land, I have to imagine, you have a vision, you're the CEO, the founder of something, you're moved by your imagination, a vision of what this can be, what your company can be, but also, the asset, the commodity that you guys are really staking your claim on, which is silver. And so, where did you believe the price of silver could go back then?
Well, I knew it could always go back to its all-time high. I knew that was going to be inevitable. It was going to be. I went to $20. It was funny because you sit in there and that's the price environment that you're familiar with, and so the increase to the price of silver would it's kind of something that you look at. Oh yeah, I guess it could go to $20 or something like that in the near term. That would be awesome, but we're happy right now because we knew we knew that we could make the project work because of the quality of the project at those price levels. But I knew it was an inevitability that eventually the silver price will take back its all-time highs and probably make new ones. So I'm expecting that still. But the reason I say that, the $15 or whatever, $16, $17 to $20, is because that's we're looking at that now, where you think, okay, well, it'd be great if it broke 30 and maybe got to 35, but I think as soon as that happens, we could be at $50 pretty soon per ounce. So, and then we're looking back and saying, oh yeah, this is good, but when will it take on 100?
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that about the mining stocks in general that whatever commodity it is, whether it's copper mining stocks or silver mining stocks, whatever it is, the interesting thing about it is that, people are getting a position in mining stocks because of the leverage, right? You said you differentiated them as wealth preservation by buying physical silver, which is how I started investing in silver, was through physical bullion. But then there's also mining stocks, and people say, well, why invest? Why put anything into mining stocks? And especially when the price of silver is manipulated. But you see since the silver squeeze, a very clear, many mining stocks are down, right? In gold and silver since the silver squeeze high. Many of them are, some have held. You guys are up a lot, like a lot, I'm like, damn, like this is incredible when the price of silver when the sentiment is really at I would say the lowest since I started this channel 13, 14 months ago by far. But you guys are up, and to me, that's a pretty easy example of why mining stocks. Would you agree? And also the question, why mining stocks?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that is why mining stocks, because you benefit not only from, you could buy a basket of companies that have silver in their name. And, if silver goes to $50 and, those will probably go up. Well, let's say price of silver doubles, those things will probably go up 4 or 5 times. So that's great. But, the value that's created by discovery, by good management teams doing good work on good projects, is different than just buying something with silver in the name. And so that's why, not every junior mining stock is great, and most aren't. But the good ones do create value for shareholders, and the way that you can tell that is because good management teams own the stock that they're working on as well, and they want to be driven to kind of create value for shareholders because they are shareholders. So, and that's the case with Vizsla. But why mining stocks? I think exactly that. You get leverage or you get torque to the metal price. But even in environments where the metal price maybe isn't, like you said, low bullish sentiment on it, you still have an opportunity to make money.
So thanks for watching today's episode. Give us a comment down below that says go silver go, or go Vizsla go, right there down below. We'll be sure to link Vizsla silver right there down below in the description. Check out the website. Like I said, one of our main sponsors and our first ever sponsor on this show, Vizsla silver. So far, you guys made me look pretty good. So I'm expecting that to continue as well. So we appreciate that, Mike.
Well, thanks, Jake. It's always a pleasure.
All right. So make sure you hit the like button on this video to send it out into the gold and silver universe on YouTube. Give us a comment down below. Let us know what you think of today's episode. Many of the big finance channels are paying YouTube to pop up in the top of the algorithm. So if you think we do a good job, good work, make sure you hit that like button. Give us a comment down below to let YouTube know, hey, we're doing great stuff here without giving YouTube extra money. So give us that right there down below. Hit that subscribe bell notification for future episodes. And we want to thank Vizsla Silver. And I want to thank you for watching and listening to today's episode.